So today we're actually going to be migrating the user management project from Conan 1 to Conan 2. And I've specifically restrained myself from actually trying Conan 2.0 in this project while I've been making sure everything's ready to go. And it's going to hurt, but we're going to do it together for the first time. And this should be really fun. So we're going to have quite a lot of work ahead of ourselves. I even had to make a graphic just to show everything that we're going to do. And then I'm going to show you some updates I did on last week while I was on vacation. And we're going to dive right into this. So, in order to go from Conan 153, which is where I left off on this project, to Conan 2.0, one of the few things we're probably going to have to do is play around with our presets. So, when I left off this project, the CMake presets were still relatively new. And in the 6 months between 153 and 2.0, there were some changes. And I suspect we're going to have to muck around with some of the naming that was used in the past. And that should be pretty easy. I'm hoping, fingers crossed here, that because we already did the hard work of being on the latest for Conan 153 and using all the best practices, we shouldn't have to actually make any changes to our recipes. Whether or not that's true, we'll find out. But fingers crossed, here's hoping. So the big part of the work is going to be the DevOps changes. And this is the big giant green box I got for you. So we're going to be using a Conan Center index as a fork workflow. This is going to be the best practice that's going to be coming out in the next few weeks from the team. And this is something we're going to put in place for the user management project. So the next thing is runner-based profiles. So this project's hosted on GitHub with GitHub Actions, and as a result, the profiles and runners need to match. So I'll show you something in a minute of why this is important, but it's something we have to take note of. In Conan 1.x, there had been a mistake where people relied on Conan profile detect behavior as the baseline. You really should not be doing that in 2.0, and it's something we're going to have to fix in the user management project as well. Lock files. Those are completely new and revamped. Has Conan 2.0 fixed lock files? I am excited. We have custom settings. So user management, I typically work on Windows and WSL2 with Ubuntu, and that has a different glibc version than the Alpine distro that I usually use to deploy my Docker images. So we're going to have to work on modeling our glibc implementation and versions, and we're going to see how that impacts things. We're going to be using the new user settings.yaml configuration that now exists. We're going to need custom formatters for JSON. We're going to end up writing custom commands. Another enterprise pro level feature we're going to be using is backup sources. The docs are whip in progress. However, this is already deployed in Conan Center Index. So I'm going to give you some sneak peeks on what's coming down the pipeline. Package list, this was a blog that came out. We're going to be building packages in groups, and we're going to be uploading them in groups, but we don't want to upload our entire cache. This is just going to be a quick performance thing, and it's going to make sure we're doing the right thing at the right time and avoid some mistakes. We're going to need deployers. We're going to completely redo how we build the Docker images, and that's going to really give us some really good exercise for some of these workflows. And going to our workflow updates, you can see here I put this in a dashed little box. It's because I'm not settled on this. What's going to be step 2 of updating this project is going to be something we're going to have to figure out. So if you have any ideas of what you would want to see, let me know in the comments down below. We're going to switch over to what I've been doing last week. So I had some time off, but I couldn't help myself. I had to try stuff. So I worked on fixing the pipeline. So last time I shared this, the build was failing, but it's no longer anymore. And I had to do a few things to make this work. So I made an absolute rookie mistake, and I didn't specify what version of Conan to install in my pipeline. Obviously, you don't have control of when the tooling third-party libraries update, so you need to work with version ranges or lock files to make sure you're installing the right dependencies. So it was a really easy fix to do this here. Another thing is the macOS images for GitHub changed from 11 to 12. And binaries aren't published for macOS latest, which I believe is using Clang 14, and CCI is only publishing packages for Clang 13. So had to roll that back to make sure it works. Something to pay out for. The npm publishing didn't work because it's running on a newer version of Node.js. The requirements for npm to upload changed, so I had to update some of those scripts to sign in through npm to be able to upload packages. And I have all the instructions here. So this is one of the things that, like, kind of painful when you screw it up and you make the mistakes, but now it's in place. Hopefully we don't forget this the next time. And we're gonna switch right over to the console. So I downloaded the latest code. I have the latest updated version of Conan. We're gonna start off by just deleting a boatload of stuff because there's a lot of stuff in here that we probably don't need. So we're gonna cd into the back end. We're gonna open up VS Code. We're not going to worry about loading anything. We're just going to close all of this. We're going to start from the bottom up. We got requirements over here. Oh, look at this. I did have it. I didn't even use it. That's a shame. So, might as well. Greater than or equal to 2.0. Our README has a lot of information. And there's a lot of different things that we're using that are going to change. So we're going to have to take some time. This is going to be a really good benchmark, though, for how complicated the migration is. How much of this are we going to have to change to make sure it's correct? Lock files. We don't need this. These are completely different. Delete. We have a .conan folder with configs. Our Conan conf, revisions enabled. If you weren't doing this in 1.x, you're going to have a hard time upgrading. But we shouldn't need this file anymore. So config, gone. Profiles. These should still be the same, hopefully, maybe. We're going to have to change the include default. We have a Ninja one as well. So we're going to leave these two for now. These seem we can keep. Remotes. Remotes changed. Remotes is now a JSON file, so that's a delete. We got settings. These are gone. Boom. Easy. And wow, that was it? I was expecting this to be harder. Thankfully we are pretty up to date, so it's not too bad. So currently, the last time I did this, I forced it up to 151. But we're going to probably end up going through a lot of this and changing it up. So let's try just doing Conan install. Do we? No, we don't. What we're going to do before we do this is we're going to add a .conan RC file. Here we're going to do Conan home equals current directory. And we're going to add a .conan 2 for a cache. This is a super convenient way to make sure that your project settings are specific to that particular project. So I personally have to work in different repos in different projects, and these user management settings aren't going to necessarily apply to Conan Center Index repo when I'm contributing to recipes. So I want all of my settings for this repo to be local to this one. So we're going to do a Conan config home. And this is going to create our folder. Awesome. One thing done. And this created our cache. So what we're going to do right away is git ignore .conan2 folder. Done. Now, Conan install. We have no profiles. Ooh. So we're going to do Conan profile detect I'm going to name this Ubuntu 22. I think that's what we're using. So we now have this in our profiles. So we're going to do Conan install minus PR. And we're going to do Ubuntu 22 because that's what we're running on. I'm not going to specify the build, although it's actually going to make me, so I lied. We're going to definitely do it because I already know it's going to yell at me. What did I not spell it correctly? Oh, damn it. Well, that's easy because we put the thing in our cache. We can just go in here, reload this so that it's up to date. And we might as well just check while we're at it. Ubuntu 22, perfect. Copy this. We're gonna rename. Oh, error loading Conan file while initially options package name is deprecated. Use a pattern like, okay, so we weren't up to date. Perfect. But this error message is super helpful. Default options, this should be an asterisk star. That was easy. Now it was able to load mine. Now it's going to look in Conan Center for all of the packages that we need. And we'll see if everything exists. One thing we might struggle with is I didn't change any of the versions in 6 months. So it's possible that some of these versions may not even be available. But that is something we will find out as we watch this work. Everything is download. Oh, perfect, perfect, perfect. So by happenstance, my old versions are all available for Conan 2.0. I guess it's not by happenstance. I guess this is pretty common. When we upgrade recipes, we just do it for all versions. The fact we have binary packages is a bonus. There are very few configs being built for V2 as we move the resources over, so we're getting pretty lucky with this. Whoop, 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 whoop. We're gonna let this run. That's it. So we're gonna close this because you should not be looking inside the Conan cache. And this is the new name of our presets, Conan release. Now, is this what I had originally documented? It's not. So already I can see some of the things are changing. Let's go update this right away. This is gonna be like this. So I already know what's coming next. Unrecognized version. Could not read presets version. All right, so what version of CMake do I have? The wrong one. Fantastic. So how do we want to do this? Now I just added it to the tool requires and we'll see where that gets us. Downloading binaries off the internet. We're going at light speed today. So because we now have a tool requirement and we do this, you're going to see it's still the wrong version. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to source our build scripts. So you can see here that we generated environment files. We need the build one. Now, it's pulling in the wrong version of CMake. But when it installed the right one. Installed 327. So Let's try our run. Still wrong. And it's finding 3.22. Because it's running the wrong version with the right environment. Oh, that is fantastic. So if we go to our build folder, release, build environments, Conan run, release 86. It's adding CMake to our path. And it's pulling this one in because that has a shorter path. If we do where CMake, you can see the right one is being found. It's just picking the wrong one out of my environment. They're so pleasant. We're gonna just run that. Let's try version first just to make sure we're doing it right. Perfect. So we have our environment. Our paths are wrong. We'll figure out how to make that better for the user later on, but let's just try to see if this actually works. So we want to do preset Conan release. And it's working. Finally. All right, so taking stock of what we've done so far while this runs. Actually, it's already done configuring. That it's way faster than I expected. So we have a new profile for working on Ubuntu 22 because that's what we're on. We added a .conan RC so we can have a Conan cache specific to our user management project. We've added that to our git ignores. Our recipe, we've had to fix one thing in our migration to Conan 2.0. So far, so good. We also had to add tool requirements, but I'm just trying to hack through, trying to get to the point where we can actually test things. And in terms of workflow, we are using different preset names, which are over here. They used to not have a Conan prefix, but now they do. That's interesting to note. And we bumped our requirements to 2.0. So we should be able to do this and now just add on a build. And this should build our user management project, which is fantastic. We have warnings. That's because we haven't maintained the software in 6 months like doofuses, and we're going to have problems with this. But you can see there are a lot of different libraries being built. We got lib encoders and base 64. We got users. There's a logger. So all of these different libraries could be different recipes. So if we take a look at our CMake list, you can see there's quite a few different options. And if we do Control-Shift-F for add library, you can see there's a ton of different libraries that we're adding. User management is the root level one. This is a schema pack, which makes all of our API. So this is automatically generating our API code. Unit test helpers, we have database, encoders, user routes, server files, web app, routing, add headers, response builder, content type. Oh my God, the list just goes on and on. So with this, we're going to see to make sure it passes. We're not going to knock on wood. We don't screw anything up, but we should be done. Like that's all it took. It took one extra character in our recipe. We have a couple workflow changes, but we expected that. We knew the presets were going to be a problem, but it's not too bad. I mean, just adding a prefix, not too bad, not too bad. What we could even do is write our own presets. What might be something we consider in the future, because if we look at our CMake list, we have things like enable tests, run tidy, and coverage. We can make presets for these. It's going to be pretty awesome. So I'm going to let this compile. and I'll check back with you in a minute. And we're back. It built. I ended up getting a drink and we're getting some refresh, but it built. So we run build / releases. It's handy that I already built this on for other apps, but we have our user database app. This should fail. That'll work. What do we have here? Linking executable. Where did it put it? Is it in source? Oh, it's in source. Oops. Not too bad. CMake respects our structure, but there we go. We have an app that works. We were able to find all our dependencies. Everything worked. So there wasn't a lot we had to do to migrate. Just reiterating, we have a few changes that we had to make. But if we look at our Conan file.py, we missed a single, or 2 characters, I apologize. We ended up having to add CMake because I'm using newer versions and my system's not up to date. But I don't think that's a fair, that's not because of the Conan migration. And that's pretty it. That's it. That was it. One line. Now, if you're asking yourself, how do you get to the point where your Conan 2.0 migration could be this painless? You're in luck. One of the very first blogs I wrote when I joined the Conan team as the developer advocate was exactly this. So in June or September, somewhere between then, I did this work and I shared all of it here. And there's a link that you can use to the GitHub project where you can actually see the diff of what I did the first time getting to this point. So I'd highly recommend taking a check out at the blogs, and you can yourself get to this point where your Conan 2.0 migration could be as painless as this. So thank you very much. We didn't do much migrating, but we did a lot of prep work. So I hope you got to learn a few things, a little tips and tricks along the way. So we did really good today. We got a little star today. We did our recipe migration. This is what I really wanted to get done today, and it's done. So what I would like to do for the next one is these 2. So we're gonna focus on making sure we can use lock files. So in the next one, we're gonna make sure we can use lock files. We're gonna make sure and see how we can use the new settings user to do our old glibc user management for glibc management words. So if you like this one, subscribe, tune in for the next week, and I will be doing more of this with you, and I'll be sharing what I've done.